the news of the day is that the worst kept secret in boxing, in combat sports, in sports media became official, and that's that Zuffa Boxing is headed to Paramount Plus. This had first been reported by Ryan Glassspiegel of Front Office Sports right after the UFC Paramount deal was announced. And today we got the official announcement. 12 shows in 2026. Terms, in terms of like the money, was not announced. They didn't officially announce the years, but Front Office Sports did announce that it's a 5-year deal. So not bad. Not as long as the UFC deal, but close. 7-5. This is for the US, Canada, and Latin America. No word on the UK. Got some questions about the UK. 12 shows, but they still have the ability for the mega shows to be on other platforms. So like this doesn't preclude them. If they get a mega show and they continue to talk about the 12 shows, contender series, building people up, 50-50 fights, but this wouldn't be like a Terrence Crawford type of event. Those could still go on Netflix. So it's a nice little deal for them. I actually think it's really good for American boxing. I don't think it's good that every promotion is on one platform, DAZN. I don't think that's good. We like DAZN, it's great, but like you can't have 8 different promotions on there because it gets a little bit lost in the shuffle. So here's Paramount getting into boxing as well as MMA, of course. And let's see what the shows are. Dana White did an interview with Brian Campbell of CBS Sports. Didn't give up too much information regarding how many fighters. He's talked about, 450. I don't know how you can have that many with just 12 shows. I doubt that will be the final number. Talked about, the weight classes. Did say he's gonna have female fighters on his cards, but the details are very, very, very limited right now. Said it will start in January. Obviously, UFC deal starts in January as well. In that interview, though, there were 2 really interesting sections, I thought. The first one being, he was asked about the Ali Act, and he said, we're not changing a word of the Ali Act. We're just making it better. All right. And then he did say that, like, you could either choose, if you're a fighter, you could choose to fight under the Ali Act, or you could choose to fight with us under our version. And I'm not quite sure. I'm not a politician, anyone who deals with legislation and things like that, but like I'm not quite sure it works like that. I don't think you can pick and choose under what rules you fight under. And I'm not talking about like rules in terms of like 3-minute rounds. I'm talking about like, government legislation. That's what the Ali Act is. So let's see how this all plays out. I think that the TKO folks are very smart, very savvy, very powerful, and they have very smart, savvy, powerful people in government. I think they will get whatever they want. What that means, they continue to say, we're making it better, we're adding to it, it's going to be better for the fighters. That remains to be seen. You've even seen, people who aren't necessarily Zuffa friends, Nikisa Badarian, one name that comes to mind, who has said like he doesn't necessarily think this is a bad thing. Now, does he have his own ideas as to what this could do for him and his company, MVP? Who knows? But I thought that it was just a really interesting way of framing it. You could choose to fight under the old Ali Act or the new. I don't know if that's accurate, if I'm being honest. The other interesting thing was he was asked about working with other promotions and promoters. He brought up Eddie Hearn. He brought up some of the others. Didn't say them by name, but did mention Eddie Hearn. Well, I think Brian mentioned Hearn first. Point is, he said, these guys, these other promotions, they don't think big. And then he did the thing that Eddie does, which is, I like Eddie Hearn, but I saw all of a sudden he switched up. He became Oscar De La Hoya. And, I know he was doing it for attention and stuff like that. And it keeps feeling like we're inching closer and closer to something. There's always a preface. There's always, I like, but, and then, we get into the whatever. The backhanded compliment or the little dig. So I think that's definitely a story to watch. But ultimately, this I think is very good for them. I think it's good for boxing in the United States. I mean, if you look at Top Rank still doesn't have a deal. Golden Boy has their DAZN deal. MVP has their deal. with DAZN and the big events on Netflix. Let's see what happens to them in 2026. They obviously have the women's league that they're building as well with all the women's fighters. There needs to be other places. ESPN is out of the business. There continues to be talk of maybe WBD, maybe TNT, maybe HBO Max, but other places showing combat sports, and in this case, boxing, I think is good. I think it's good for business, good for the sport. So finally, after all these years, 2017, talking about Zuffa Boxing, here we are, end of 2025. It is real, and we'll see what it translates into. Dana did do an interview with 60 Minutes recently, and the story aired last night. At the beginning of the story, I want to talk about this real quickly. At the beginning of the piece, so you guys have seen 60 Minutes, I'm assuming in some way, shape, or form. I mean, it's one of the longest running news magazine shows in American broadcasting history. It's well respected. It usually starts off like this. Tonight on 6, that was pretty good, right?
Yeah, that's class.
Tonight on 60 Minutes. And then it's like, And then it goes, I'm Leslie Stahl. I'm Mike Wallace. Those stories plus Andy Rooney tonight on 60 Minutes.
You know we're on air, right?
Yeah. I always used to love the Andy Rooney bits where he's like, you ever notice when you're in a bookstore? And it was just an absolute legend. Anyway, they did a story. This was John Wertheim. John Wertheim was the correspondent who I have tremendous respect for, longtime Sports Illustrated writer, also a tennis pundit as well. He's the sports guy. He did the story. And at the very beginning, when they're sitting on the chair and it's the black room and they've got the little magazine book open thing, and it's a very nice, it's iconic. He says that they had been working on this story for quite some time. I know that to be true. So this wasn't necessarily like, hey, we just signed the UFC to this big deal. Paramount owns CBS, Skydance, all this thing. Like, let's do a story on Dana White. No, it is true that they had been looking at him and considering doing a feature on him long before all of this. That is true. Now, it does air, and the interview was conducted post Paramount deal. So their intentions prior and their intentions afterwards could very well have changed. 13 or so minute piece, that's kind of how long these pieces are. And I've seen some people call it fluff. I've seen some people call it, just a puff piece, whatever you want to call it, softballs. Look, that piece is not for you or the other person watching or me or, someone watching this show. That piece wasn't for you. That piece was for the 65-year-old, 56-year-old mom, dad, grandmother, grandfather, casual sports fan, news watcher who's watching 60 Minutes after football, who watches it every week regardless of what the story is, who just likes to learn about people. This is a guy who's interesting. This is a guy who marches to the beat of his own drum. This is a guy who's very good friends with the President of the United States. This is the guy who runs his sports league different than all the other sports where anything could be said and you wear ripped jeans and you drop F-bombs. Like it wasn't really for us. And so I wasn't expecting much. And overall, I could see a 56-year-old guy watch that be like, you know what? I like this guy. This guy's talking about the wussification of America. I like this guy. This guy's talking about toxic masculinity not really being a thing. I like this guy. I like the way he conducts himself. I like what he believes in. And, it's a bit of the Trump backstory. And he says, Biden would be invited or Obama would be invited, and Obama congratulated him on his success at the inauguration. Like, it was just all there. Did they go deep into controversies? No. Did they go deep into transgressions? No. Did I expect that? No. Did ask about fighter pay. And Dana did the thing like, can I sit here right now and tell you it's going to go up ×2 because our rights deal went up ×2? No. Again, the rights deal came out now. It's been at least a month and a half. I would like to think he has some sort of idea. And I know for a fact that some of the champions, because they're starting to build these cards, like January is approaching, that they've made some amendments to the deal, especially when it comes to champions who get pay-per-view points. So he does know. He's playing coy. and that's fine. He doesn't have to tell us right now, and he may never tell us. It'll be up to the fighters to tell us or their managers to tell us. And it's the classic scenes of him gambling and being down $700K and being down 1.2 million and then getting it up. And I see people saying, how could you do that while you're, not paying your fighters enough? But that's his personal money. Like, he could do it. Like, Dana White doesn't pay fighters out of his Dana White bank account. So ultimately, that's a larger, at this point, TKO discussion. But there were two things that I thought were really interesting and, just kind of speaks to the walking contradiction that he is, and some might say hypocrite. I might be one of those people. He loves to talk about freedom of speech, and he'll say freedom of speech is very important here. And then he'll say the most important type of speech to protect is hate speech. Now, why is that? Why is hate speech the most important? That I don't quite understand. Why is it more important to protect hate speech than just speech in general, all kinds of speech? And then the obvious follow-up, which I wish was asked in the piece, if I'm being honest, maybe it was and it was cut out, is if freedom of speech is so important and freedom of hate speech is so important, then why isn't freedom of press important as well? Because as we know, and let's not even talk about myself, long before I came on the scene, there were issues between Dana White and the press. And of course, my situation is probably the most notable one. But why don't you feel the same way about the press? If you feel so strongly about freedom of speech and freedom of hate speech, surely you should feel strongly about freedom of press, especially when the press isn't even being critical in any way, shape, or form. You just want a certain type of press. That to me is a contradiction. If you're about the Constitution, if you're about amendments, and if you're about doing things the right way, the American way, why does freedom of press not get that same type of respect? Also, he says, I don't believe in destroying people's lives. I don't believe in destroying people's lives if they make a singular mistake. I mean, I sit here today, he has tried actively to destroy my life because what? I reported some news, some fight news. Again, Dana White didn't dislike me because I was critical of the UFC. They didn't like me because I was reporting, fight announcements. I was reporting this before they were ready to get it out, or that I would ask fighters about Bellator or free agency. So if you don't know these things, I can understand why you would sit there and be like, you know what? I like this guy. I like his vibe. But if you know and you lived it and you've watched him and you've covered him, you know that this whole thing now, freedom of this, freedom of that, freedom of this, freedom of that, is a little hypocritical. Did anyone else see the piece back there?
Yeah, I did.
What do you think, Rick?
I think that the mission to have a real discourse about Dana White, the UFC, ventures into boxing, is not going to be best served by a company that is producing content that is on the network that he has partnered with. Like, that's just the reality of it. It is not this was not going to be incisive. This was not going to be exploratory in a major way. There were questions that still needed to be asked, and it should be transparently, like, I didn't expect that going in, right? Like, I did not expect that this would be that. And so I'm ultimately not like let down or disappointed or anything like that, because my expectations of this were that it would ultimately kind of be what the end product ended up being. But if anybody had expectations beyond that this was going to be some kind of massive revelation and Dana White bears all conversation, I feel it would have been a little bit misguided. Because that was not where I landed ultimately.
PT, what do you think?
I thought it kind of presented him exactly the way he'd want to be presented. And I could see, as you said, I could see a lot of people watching it and going, Jesus, this guy's a really cool dude.
Yeah.
This is the kind of guy I want to be on his team. I also saw that 60 Minutes posted a piece that the first piece they did about the UFC, I believe it was 2006, 2007. And I know we say it all the time on this show, and people often forget we do, but it is crazy seeing how far this company has come. I believe on the first segment with 60 Minutes, he was asked, you bought this company for 2 million with the Fertitas. How much is it worth now? And he's like, oh, I don't know. And they're like 100 million. And he's like, maybe. And
Wow.
to see like the TV deals are selling for 7.7 billion now. His status as a guy who's to the right hand of the president of the United States, it's pretty astronomical what they've done. But all in all, I agree with you and Rick. I think this is exactly how he would have want to be presented. And I wonder how different it is based on your note at the start of the show and their note at the top of the segment about how long they're pursuing this. I wonder how different it might have been had this deal not been in place.
GC, you see it?
Oh yeah, I saw it because my dad texted me about it.
There it is.
My dad was watching it. That's the power of CBS right there. To me, it as someone that sees all the press conferences, that sees pretty much any interviews that he does, it was nothing new for like a diehard fan of the sport. It was the same questions. Do you think the fighters are paid fairly? Tell us about the White House card. Tell us about this deal. It felt like things that he's been asked in some way, shape, or form in different settings before this.
Yeah, and again, it wasn't for us. I think very calculated, like that little moment at the beginning, like ask me whatever you want. Like these things are they're very
Is
calculated.
fighter paying a double? It's gonna be good.
Yeah,
It's gonna be
Whatever
good.
you want. Answers TBD. Can I ask you something, GC?
Yes.
What? No, GC.
Oh, GC.
Did your dad have thoughts on it? Because his opinion is the one I'd actually want the most.
I probably
We're too
should have
close to it.
I probably should have followed up. I just said thanks, watching now.
Check
then
in and
we,
we'll come back later,
we never
'cause I'm
had any
curious
follow
what-
Let's call him up right now.
I'm-
Get a.
Here we go. Dad, you're live on the air.
I'm curious what the person sitting at home who's familiar with UFC, familiar with Dana White, but not really like engrossed in it in the way that we are felt, right? Pizzi said it perfectly. Like, do you come away thinking like this guy's a rock star? I'll follow whatever he's doing. Or
I
was
would
it kinda
bet you
like,
do.
Yeah, I'm
I think
curious.
The one word that comes to mind: loyal. You're
Yeah.
a bully. Yeah, I could live with that because I want to win. Like
was
if
happy
you
with the
know
bully.
nothing about this guy, what was that, PT?
He seemed quite happy. He was happy.
Yeah.
As happy
mean,
with
bro-
the loyalty line as he was with the bully line. He's like, yes, correct. That is also what
You
I
know
am.
nothing about him. You walk away from that being like, this guy is and again, the same story that we've heard for 15 or so years. The antithesis of Roger Goodell, the antithesis of Adam Silver or Gary Bettman or even like your typical sports owner. He's just
He even said
He's a
in the
rebel.
piece, he was like, the deal that I have would make Roger Goodell or
Yeah.
Adam Silver jealous. Also, not for nothing, them following him into the casino, and like when they show up,
So
they
good.
got the whiskey and the cigars ready to go, and then he goes down 1.2 mil, and then he ends up 700K, and he walks away with bands of cash. Yeah, it's hard to not think someone is cool when they're able to do that.
ultimately you can ask yourself like, hey, now that you're in business, maybe 60 Minutes shouldn't do this story. But the flip side of that is, no, now you're in business. Now you want to be in the business of telling the Dana White story, right? Now it actually makes a lot more sense. Sort of like the type of quote unquote journalism that ESPN wanted to do when they were in business with ESPN. And that's just the way like society is. This is nothing new. When a sports entity signs up to this type of deal with an outlet, with a broadcasting giant, it is now in their best interest to shine a light and to shine a positive light. This is not a unique UFC phenomenon. They are now interested in promoting the UFC. There's commercials during events. You see it during football now, and so it was there was no part of me that was disappointed. There was no part of me that was like, damn, I wish they would have asked this or that. It's just when you sit there and hear him talk, the freedom of hate speech is just such a funny thing. Like, why is it more important to protect freedom of hate speech? Why is this such a big deal to you? And then, of course, then you start thinking like, well, it was once not important. You actually let people go. And we could talk about this ad nauseum. But anyway, a good piece of press.
Can I ask you one more thing?
Yeah.
This one is for you, Ariel. Does it make you change how you view 60 Minutes? Because you now have seen a piece, you know how the sausage is made a little bit more. Is 60 Minutes different in your eyes?
No, because 60 Minutes isn't doing stories on the regular about things that they're in business with, right?
Yeah.
Now, let's say next week they're doing a story on the NFL and it's a very rosy story, like, no, maybe they shouldn't be doing stories on things that they're in business with. But then, of course, you go a step further, and then there's the Skydance thing, and then there's the Trump thing, and there's the Colbert thing, and you know what I mean? And so I guess we have to find out what is CBS News in the year 2025 and 2026, right? In this new era, this new Skydance era. But 60 Minutes is still 60 Minutes, at least for now. And so once stories start to come out of, oh, we couldn't talk about this or we had to edit that, then the opinion will change. But I think it's maybe a little bit too soon. But again, and this is probably a discussion for a different day, but all of this is fascinating to me. Like the Jimmy Kimmel thing is fascinating to me. And this is all freedom of speech, right? So if Jimmy Kimmel, oh gosh, we're going down a whole freaking thing.
We don't have to.
I don't want to get into it.
We don't have to.
But I just want to understand one quick thing.
Yes, please.
If Jimmy Kimmel said something that was offensive, right? Because that's ultimately what he's being accused of. Is that considered hate speech?
But
and just want to understand. And if it is considered hate speech, isn't that the most important thing to protect?
As it relates to this conversation, it seems like Dana White did disagree with that and said it should be protected. That's my only thing for that. Dana White said that. So,
You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, he did say it. Fair play to him. He said, I don't want people to be canceled on both sides.
Correct.
So he does disagree with this. So all of this is fascinating. Yes.
That's only as it relates to this conversation.
Actually,
I think there's other ways to
I agreed with him on that. I hate cancel culture. Obviously, I do believe that there should be, forget about cancel culture as a word. I do believe that there should be repercussions for stupid actions. If you say something stupid, or if you do something stupid, or if you do something criminal, or if you do something, whatever. But people losing their job off of tweets and things like that.
He's effectively canceled you, though. Like, he's effectively canceled you.
Well, he tried to. I mean, it's still here, PCGs.
I know, but like he tried to
100%. Oh, he didn't just, I mean, he actively tries. Till this day. There's things that people don't know about, till this day. But that's why I think I laugh when I hear him say, and by the way, just to be very clear, because I can almost see it now. Oh, here's Ariel, labeling himself as a victim. I'm not a victim. Life is great. As I said to you 2 weeks ago, I am totally fine with how things played out. I was actually talking to a very good friend of mine who you all know this morning about this. Like, he doesn't realize how life has played out and how he's helped me every step of the way, indirectly. But yes, he has tried. I'm not a victim at all. But when you hear him say, I don't like people having their lives ruined for a mistake, I'm like, well, you actively try to ruin people's lives for things that you perceive to be wrong or a mistake. So GC's dad doesn't know any of this. So I can almost guarantee you ask him after, he says, yeah, I mean, interesting guy. Like the way he maneuvers, or, it's what a story, something like that.